wife and I had an experience, I'll never forget this. We went from Israel to Egypt. And, you know, we were going to visit Egypt for the first time. And this years ago we went there. We've been there a couple of times. And, man, the aircraft took off. And I'm getting excited. I'm going to see Egypt. I'm going to see Pharaoh, you know, remains of the, you know, all this stuff. Get excited. And before I could get excited, they said, we're about to land. Fasten your seatbelts. I said, wait a minute. We just took off. And the flight attendant says, yes, we're landing. I said, well, we just left. She said, yes, but we're landing. I said, what are you talking about? It's only been 20 minutes. She said, yes, we are in Egypt. 20 minutes. We are in Egypt. I said, what are we doing in Egypt already? She says, Cairo is only 20 minutes away. No, you didn't hear what I just said. Okay, let me explain it to you. It took Moses then 40 years to go from Egypt to Israel, where I was. 20 minutes. So when we got to Egypt, right, they picked us up, took us to our hotel, checked us in, and then our first tour guide, you know, came to get us, and we boarded the bus, and we're going out to the pyramids. On our way out there, I became very intrigued. So I asked the driver, I said, excuse me, sir, how far is Israel from here? He said, oh, it depends on how you go, he says. I said, well, explain it to me. He said, well, from Cairo to Israel, Jerusalem, if you walk, it's about 40 days. You take a bus, it's 24 hours. Take a plane, it's 20 minutes. I told my wife, where's my Bible? I gotta read my Bible again. I went back, hotel room, grabbed my Bible. I said, let me just seek. I think God made a mistake. It took them 40 years for a 40-day trip. And then I read in the Bible, it says, because they had not gotten Egypt out of their minds, the Lord led them the long way round until their children were born. Let me just give you the point I'm making here. God will deliver you, but will never set you free. You can set yourself free. They walked around in that desert for 40 days. Why? 40 years. Why? Because 40 years is a generation. What was God doing? He was waiting 40 years until he got what they were carrying in their loins. The next generation. When the kids came up, God killed them all. Killed all the parents. God allowed none of them to go into the promised land. Why? Because they were still thinking about onions instead of milk and garlic instead of honey. They didn't change their thinking. Your mentality is more important than your location. If you don't change as a person mentally, you will stay where you are physically. So God killed them all. Only 2 left. And those 2 were born in the desert. Caleb, Joshua. They had no memory of oppression. They believed anything was possible. Leadership begins with thinking. So my question is, what is your philosophy of leadership? Well, why don't you believe that you could own a company? Why the first thing you look for is a job instead of look for a business? It's subtle questions, but why? Why do you go to college and study an area that guarantees employment rather than guarantees deployment? because their hard drive is stuck. You know, I sit with heads of states. You saw those pictures. Heads of state, kings, governments. I work with them all the time. And most of the folks who run countries are sick just like you. They don't know what to do with the country. Power doesn't make you smart. It exposes your ignorance. Let me quickly do this because I don't want you to have nightmares. Let me just give you, let me conclude this by giving you God's philosophy of leadership, okay? I'm going back to the beginning where you began. Genesis chapter 1 is really about you. Verse 26 says, then God said, let us make a species called man in our own image, according to our likeness. And he tells us why. He says, to let them have dominion over fish of the sea, birds of the air, over the cattle and the animals of the field, over all that's growing in the earth, and over everything that creeps on the ground. Now, every word in this statement is very important. And in this verse is the secret to your life. It's the secret to your greatness and your leadership. This is where I found mine right here. I found it in here. I'm just going to say this. I hate to talk about these things, but I'll just say it. In a lot of my contracts with governments, they pay me $5,000 an hour. Could you imagine? You work for 10 hours. 3 days. Okay. I used to sleep on the floor with roaches. I am from a family of 11 children. One mother, one father. I am number 6, right in the middle. We were born in a wooden house with 4 big rocks in a small, low-income, poor area called Bainstown in the Bahamas, in an island 7 miles wide. That was my life. 7 miles wide, 20 miles long. I was born middle of an island, poorest part. The house had 2 rooms. 11 kids now, 2 bedrooms. One for my mother and father, one for my 7 sisters. We slept like sardines. So the 4 boys slept on the floor. That's where I was born. One chicken for 11 kids. The neck was delicacy. Listen. This is my life. 1 pair of shoes for the whole year. If it sprung a hole, I had to put cardboard in it. I remember sleeping with roaches running over my body. I remember waking up in the morning with blotches, blood. I was scratching the mosquitoes that were trapped under the dirty sheet on that mat on the floor. I remember looking up at the ceiling and seeing the stars through it, and buckets to catch the water from the rain. Don't talk to me about poverty. And my father was a Baptist pastor. And I went to church 3 or 4 times a week, and I slept with roaches. Don't tell me about religion. So when I talk to you from this position I'm talking to, I'm telling you what worked for me. And now to be paid $5,000 an hour. How do you move from the floor with roaches to being called on by heads of states to talk to the entire governments? Something happened in my mind. And it began with this verse. let us make man. The word man here is the word ish. I-S-H, write it down in Hebrew, ish. It's a plural word, which means that God wasn't making a person, he was making a species. All of us is called man. For example, we call all dogs, dogs. We call all cats, cats. God called all of us man. Man is the designation of the whole species. It comes in two models, male and female. But it's all man. And then he says, I want to make this particular product in my own image. Write the word image down. See, this stuff is important. This is what set me free. The word image doesn't mean to look like. The Hebrew word means characteristics. Characteristics. Let them have the same characteristics, qualities of God. No Baptist pastor told me that. My father couldn't teach me that. He didn't know it. I had to find it for myself. I have God's character. Wow. What a discovery for a little boy sleeping on the floor. I am just like my father, God. Oh, my mind was changing. You know, we had teachers from Europe because we were oppressed by the British, you know. We were bought there as slaves years ago. My great-grandfather was a slave, you know, and so the British people, man, they told us that we were half-breed monkeys. They were very clear. They said, you are not fully humans. They told us this in class. One of them said to me, you are retarded. Your brain is mal-developed. You are not able to be educated. All you can do is music and dancing. And that's why they still believe that today, right here in this city. All your people do is dance and music. Why don't you run the economy? We're not world changers, we are entertainers. I decided, no, I got God's character. I gotta find this. The qualities of God is in you. Every one of you, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter, Puerto Rican, you have God's image. This is not a message for any race of people. It's for humans. You can do anything you dream. You're just like your God, your Father. Boy, that thing hit me like a bolt of light. Wow. And then the word likeness. I had to look for it myself in the Hebrew. You know what it means? It means to function like. Let us make a creature that has our characteristics and functions like us. That means you function just like God, your Father, which means you got to study, how does God function? Because if you don't function like God, you are malfunctioning. For example, in God, the Bible said there's no fear. So when you fear life, you are malfunctioning. So I'm afraid of nothing. I'm telling you, literally, I'm afraid of nothing. That makes me dangerous. A fearless man is a dangerous man. I'm not afraid of death. And that's the highest threat you can give me. And I'm not afraid of death. And you'll find that all true leaders have no fear of death. As a matter of fact, they have an affair with death. All true leaders. Why did God create you? Read it. To have what? Dominion. So what was the motivation for God's creation of you? Dominion. Why did God create you? Say it loud. Well, what motivated God to create you? What was the reason why God created you? Yeah, not to have worship services. He never said prayer meetings. never said to be a bishop. I don't know. Culture has done a good job with us. Here's a guy who's a bishop and can't pay his light bill. Here's an evangelist who owes everybody. Here's an apostle who can't even pay his mortgage. Something's wrong with this. We missed the point. He didn't create you to be a title. He created you to have dominion. Everybody say dominion. Dominion. This is where leadership is born. See? Because the word dominion, I checked it out, is the word radah in Hebrew. Write it down. It actually means to rule. It also means to govern. It means to master, to manage resources. It means to control things. It means to have sovereign authority. It actually means to lead. Please buy this CD and listen to it a few times. Get this in your spirit. That is why you were created. To be a ruler, a governor, a manager, a controller, an authority, and a leader. Now, here's why I changed. Here's why I changed. When I discovered this, I had to discover the second principle. I'm going to give it to you. If he designed you, created you to be a leader, a master, a governor, a ruler, a controller, then there must be the ability to do it. But notice, he didn't give you rulership over people. He listed what you should lead: birds, fish, animals, plants, and creeps. This is very important. God says, let's make a leader, a governor, a manager, a ruler, not to rule people. So leadership in God's mind is not about people. It's about resources. You've been taught he who has no one following is simply taking a walk. That's what the Chinese taught you. Jesus disagrees. He said, you are a leader whether someone is following you or not, as long as you are fulfilling the management of resources through your gift. But you see, it's the way it works. Here's the way it works. It works. First, let me give you this is the secret. Whatever a manufacturer demands, he builds into the product. Write that down. This is what changed me from the floor. Whatever a manufacturer demands from a product, he builds it into the product. Am I right? Am I right about this? Think about anything. Your car, for example, your computer, your iPad, your iPhone, whatever you have, your refrigerator, whatever it's supposed to function as, it is built with. Number two, whatever God calls for, he provides for. Number three, whatever God demands, he inputs. Number four, whatever God expects from something, he injects it into it. And number five, whatever God gave the purpose of a thing to do, he built it with the potential to do it. That changed my life. Because when I discovered the principle of creation, I discovered my ability. Yeah. So when a manufacturer makes a product, he makes it for a purpose. Purpose means to perform a specific function. He builds into the product the capacity to perform the function. And then he sells it to you. And he tells you to demand these certain things from the product. You can demand it because it's already built in. When I discovered this, my life changed. Because suddenly I realized that no one in my environment could determine what I could and could not do. That's when I canceled my European teachers. It was at that point my life changed. I was 13 years old when I discovered this. I want to show you something. Give you an illustration. If God created you to dominate, then the capacity to dominate is in you. Do you get the principle? Okay, so whatever you were born to do is built in. So here's what I want you to take a look at then. Conception does not guarantee manifestation. Now what I mean by that is, a bird and a fish were created by God. The fish was created to do what? Swim. So fish do not attend swimming lessons. I know it sounds simple, but it's very important. Why? Because swim is built into the fish. Why? Because God demanded the fish to swim, so he put the ability in it. Birds were designed by God to fly. So birds don't attend flight school. Flight is built in. I like this one. Seeds. Seeds were designed by the Creator to bring forth trees. You'll never find a seed attending a tree growing convention to learn how to grow trees. Why? Where's the tree? Trapped on the inside. In other words, whatever God created something to do, he built it in. Your culture and your educational system doesn't allow you to discover that. That's right. We are educated to be employed, not to be deployed. Seeds deploy themselves and become trees. Fish deploy themselves and they swim. Birds deploy themselves and they fly. We are the only creatures God created who don't deploy ourselves, because our culture doesn't allow it. You got to get free from the culture. And it's seminars like this that make you begin to have a meeting with yourself and discuss yourself with yourself and say to yourself, self, am I who I really am? You know, here's my conviction. This is why I believe that buried in every human being is a leader, trapped by an erroneous philosophy that you were born to follow. Let us make man to have what? Dominion. To govern, to rule, to lead, control. Which means that somewhere inside of you is a ruler, a controller, a leader, a dominator. Somewhere in there. Because he would not have demanded it if he didn't inject it. Which means that your ability is determined by your responsibility. Your potential is designed by your purpose. Your potential is equal to what you were born to do. The best example I can give you is this car. Look at this car. All cars have what they call a speedometer. Am I right? Well, here's an old one, old Chevy. Now, if you look at the numbers have up to 160 miles per hour this car can travel. All of your cars have that kind of registration, sometimes 200, 180. Everybody got that, right? Okay. Now, when you bought the car, that was on the car. You bought the car with it. It was on it, 180 miles per hour. I'm getting ready to go. I'm so excited. Okay, so you bought this car, you brought it home, and the manufacturer says this car can travel 180 miles per hour. How can the manufacturer put that on there? What makes him so sure that this vehicle could travel 180? That's the first question. The second question is, have you ever traveled 180 in that car? No. Let me tell you how stupid our philosophy of our country is out. We sell a car that could travel 180 and put a sign up 50 miles per hour. It's amazing. It's crazy. I don't understand it. I have no idea how they got this idea. I don't know where it comes from. But it tells you the nature of your culture. Don't try it. They give the company permission to build the capacity, but restricts your ability to use it. And you never thought about that. And that's the way they think about you. So all your life, you can make 180, but you've been traveling for 50 years at 60 miles per hour. And you think you're living. The capacity is present. Our culture says you can't go any further. And God says, press the accelerator. And your culture says you can't go any further. You can go no faster. And God says, and your culture says you can't do that. And God says, let's go. And your culture says, stop. That's as far as you can go. You got to make a decision tonight, see? You have God's ability. And man puts up the signs. You're a follower. And God says you're a leader. You're an employee. God says you're a controller. You are a subject. And God says you are a ruler. They keep putting up signs.